I tell you the story of my life. So I squeezed 65 years in 15 minutes. 48 years ago, I fell in love with a gorgeous blonde girl. She was a student nurse at a midwifery school, and I was determined to share my life with her. So I made, in those days, fathers demanded a proper job for the husband of their daughters, and I was becoming an artist because I was studying at the Academy of Fine Arts, and being a painter was, according to the father of the gorgeous blonde, no decent job. So I made a plan. I started a second study in my spare time. I made 24 exams on Saturdays, and so I became a qualified art teacher at the age of 22. But first I finished the academy. And it was a really good investment because that gorgeous girl has been my wife and muse for 40 years now. I was born in a great, large artistic family. My mother had 11 children. The mother next door had 15 children. 15 children. And so we lived in a community of a lot of children, and we were free to explore the world. My father, as an artist, said, "You can do." So in his art studio, I could make things just like I wanted. And so my youth was a free learning environment avant la lettre. In 1978, I started working as an art teacher, and I was flabbergasted in a negative way. I told my fellow teachers that I was shocked about the way children had to learn. The system was oppressive and was deadly for the imagination of children. And my colleague said, "Sjef, you are a very nice guy, but you don't know anything about education. We teachers do, and you are an artist." And my idea as an artist was and is that curiosity is the engine of all learning, and imagination is its fuel. So now I skip 25 years, I skip it because the time. So it is 2003. Meanwhile, I had become principal of a school. And my school building was in deplorable condition, just like 2 other schools in the board. And the board said we built 1 new school instead of 3 because the number of children is decreasing. And so we built Nike. And Nike is named after the Greek goddess of personal achievement, Nike. And we 3 principals decided no teachers will be involved in designing that building, and so we did. And together with Erik Schotte, the architect, we 3 built both interior and exterior. And in 2007, we opened the school, and we won a lot of prizes, best school building of the Netherlands, and we were on the list of the 10 most beautiful schools of the world. And at the same time, we started a revolutionary learning approach. But we were not satisfied because there was still too much rubbish from the old way of learning. So after 6 years, we decided we have to clean it up. So we make the pure way of learning for the 21st century. And that was Agora. And Agora is an agile learning community based on autonomy and imagination. In 50,000 years, the way how the Homo sapiens learn didn't change. So that pure way of learning we call the learning 0.0. So we're going back to prepare for the future. And 0.0 is the way loving parents approach their children. And that means each child his or her recipe. When, for instance, the favorite cat of your 12-year-old daughter is killed by a car accident, you probably have to change her recipe for a few weeks. Because life of all children is complex and all circumstances make the definition of the recipe. And my mother had 11 recipes, and the mother next door 15, and my wife and I had 2 recipes. And those 2 recipes are completely different because, as you see, my son and daughter are completely different, but equal in inheriting the DNA of the gorgeous blonde. So treat each child unequal. The only label we use is the label parents give their children at their birth their first name. Wesley, Joep, and Robin. In 2016, our life changed completely. We became grandparents. And if I had known what the delight it is being a granddad, I would started having grandchildren in the first place. Isn't he gorgeous? That's a picture when he was 4 months. He's now almost 2. And Raf, looking at Raf, you can see how learning goes. Raf was born as a perfect, self-taught learning machine. And that brings me to the fifth commandment. Learning is an autodidactic activity in a social context. And the learning machines, each learning machine aims to become good and special, so every child is motivated to learn. And the power button of the learning machine was activated at its birth. Don't touch the off button. The common system activates the off button for a lot of children. And there is a lot of brain research, you heard it today, and all that insight we use at Agora. But we said there is so much rubbish from the 2-year-old institutionalized rubbish from the system, so we have to clean up the mind of all people. And I'm not a professor in science, but we all suffer from educational Alzheimer's disease. I call it mayonnaise in the brain. At Agora, we abolished school. And at Agora, we have the Agorian master, and we call it, the teachers of Agora, we call them Agorian masters. And Agorian masters are the school parent of a school family of 17 children, a heterogeneous school family, mixed in age 12 to 18, and mixed in cognition level, and mixed in recipe. So we abolished school, and we all have mayonnaise in the brains. Adult people have a lot of mayonnaise in the brain. Young people less, but also. So you have to detox them. And by detoxing, everyone knows in a couple of weeks that you will conquer the world by a lifelong learning, by learning by yourself. Even in the spare time, you can become a teacher. So, reject all that institutionalized educational rubbish. It's very important. And it's important to mention here that all teachers, even as they teach traditionally, are worth their weight in gold. So teachers are very important for the future. And one of the greatest misconceptions about learning is focusing on knowledge. So focusing on knowledge decreases motivation. Focus on motivation increases knowledge. So focus on motivational learning. And but 2041, Rav is now 2 years, then he is 25 and leaves university. I will be 88 then. And the common school system is 20 years beyond on its expiry date. And we have the children needs the learning of the new era. And it means that it is immoral to expose children to an outdated learning approach, a kind of child abuse. Autonomous learning takes place in freedom, but it's not without obligation. With digital student tracking systems, we are able to monitor the learning process of each child at the hour level. And children, the only one who can determine what is meaningful to him or her is the child itself. And meaningful learning is affective learning. At Agora, we say the learner, the student, determines the destination of its learning. The Agorian master determines the learning route towards the destination based on the recipe. That's the way how we do it. And the Agorian master inspires children by revealing new worlds for the learner and organize, together with the parents, over 400 optional master classes a year. And they coach the student by being the replacement of the not yet mature prefrontal cortex of the learner. And they create optimal learning conditions. And the optimal learning, and when all senses are required when children are learning, the whole body is a learning machine, so the environment is very important. And there should be no boundaries between the 4 environments children live in: home, at school, society, and the virtual environment. So at Agora, children don't learn from classrooms, they learn from self-made car desks. And the ideal learning society is a mix between Disney World, Harvard University, a Buddhist convent, a marketplace, and an art studio. And the optional learning conditions is happy at home and happy at school is the optimal learning tool. Jan Vaasse and I are the founding fathers of Agora, and from the start we involved several Agorian masters and several universities. So everything we do is based on the newest insight from neuroscience to technology-enhanced learning innovations. And last May, we had the first students who took their national exam. And just like we predicted, all children passed the exam without homework, tests, classroom, and teaching teachers. And one of the successful students said, I prepared the last few months for the exam by using YouTube in the evening hours. But without the Agorian masters, I would have quit school after a few months, and probably I would be dead now or lying somewhere in the gutter as an addict. So the Agorian master is the mediator between the student, his growth, and the world. And the Agorian, last but not least, the Agorian approach has less workload for the masters. They have only 17 children a whole year, and it is significantly cheaper. So, and next year, in August, there will be 15 agro communities, both in the Netherlands and in Belgium. Start with 5 schools in Belgium. And for the sake of Ralph, and all children who will be born in the next 10 years, like Ralph's brother, who will join us in next February, start building agro-communities all over the world based on full confidence of the quality of the perfect learning machine and unconditional love for children.